be. Most of us who live in liberal Western democracies think of it as a basic human right. People have fought and died for it. But now we may be in danger of losing it. The threat is not coming from without, from external enemies, but from within. A generation is being raised not to believe in freedom of speech, but rather that they should have freedom from speech they dislike. This is a threat to both pluralism and democracy itself. We see this in Europe, where sensitivity-based censorship attempts to ban anything deemed hateful or even just hurtful, and to ban criticism of religion, especially Islam. But the United States, despite its strong constitutional protections in the Bill of Rights, is far from immune from the rising trend of suppression of speech, or what is sometimes called political correctness. This is especially true at America's colleges and universities, the place where our future leaders are educated and where you'd expect speech to be the most free. Highly restrictive speech codes are now the norm on campus, not the exception. According to a study by my organization, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, FIRE, 54% of public universities and 59% of private universities impose politically correct speech codes on their students. And thanks to recent Department of Education guidelines, 100% of colleges may adopt speech codes in the coming years. How bad is it? At a public campus in California on Constitution Day in 2013, a student who also happens to be a decorated military veteran was told he could not hand out copies of the Constitution to his fellow students. The objection from the university was not ideological. It was out-of-control bureaucracy imposing limits on speech. That same day, another college student in that same state was told he could not protest NSA surveillance outside of a tiny free speech zone, an area that comprised only 1.37% of the campus. Months later, college students in Hawaii were told both they could not hand out the Constitution to their fellow students, and that they could not protest NSA policies outside the school's free speech zone. FIRE took these colleges to court, but the fact that we had to shows you how bad it has become. Recently, students and sympathetic faculty have joined forces to exclude campus speakers whose opinions they dislike. At FIRE, we call this disinvitation season, although the season lasts all year round. Since 2009, there has been a major uptick in the push by students and faculty to get speakers they dislike disinvited. These speakers have included former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, the Somali-born feminist and critic of Islam Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and the director of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde. And that's only the obvious part of the disinvitation problem. Few conservative speakers are invited to speak at colleges lest they have to be disinvited later. The newest threat to speech comes from so-called trigger warnings, alerts that warn students that they are about to read or hear something that triggers a negative emotional response. A 2014 New York Times article cited the example of a Rutgers student requesting trigger warnings for the classic American novel The Great Gatsby because it, quote, possesses a variety of scenes that reference abusive, misogynistic violence, unquote. Recently, Oberlin College attempted to institute a policy that heavily encouraged the faculty to avoid difficult topics and to employ trigger warnings as a means of making classrooms safer. Safety has been watered down to essentially mean the right to always feel comfortable. New demands for trigger warnings are popping up on campuses across the country. Add in popular academic theories that encourage students to scrutinize speech for microaggressions, any statement that might be construed as racially insensitive, classist, sexist, or otherwise un-PC, and it's clear that campuses are teaching students to police what they say. This is precisely the opposite of what is needed. Our society needs candor, and it needs freedom of speech, not freedom from speech. Intellectual comfort is not a right, nor should it ever be. Not if we want freedom of speech. Let's just call it freedom to survive.
In this lesson, we talked about media control and censorship. The amount of control can be quite intimidating. I bet you're wondering how to navigate through this. The answer is very simple. Remain vigilant and aware of the information you are always consuming, and always ask questions. Refer to the list of critical thinking questions in Lesson 1 whenever you come across new information. Remember, you are always in control as long as you have knowledge. This is why the powers that be want to censor information. They want to keep knowledge in the hands of only a few people. More and more people are beginning to realize this reality and are arming themselves with knowledge. There is a revolution of thought and change happening in the world because of the internet. There have been attempts to stop this revolution of awakening, but it has not been successful. We still got it, we still got it. It hasn't been successful. It's not, you know, they're close in some ways, but it seems like the cat's out of the bag with a lot of stuff. And also, I feel once people realize that they're being lied to about other things, that the people that are in authority that they used to look up to, they're not going to believe them anymore. So they're gonna, even if they censor the internet down and then what's left of these authoritarian figures that they know lie to them, they're still going to seek out information somewhere else. So, you know, yeah. Ha ha, that's what they get. Okay. There's a famous poem by Gil Scott Heron titled "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." So it's kind of like a poem, but it has like music in back of it too. It's not a song, but it's like kind of like a spoken word. I guess some people entitle it like a rhythmic jam, all right? But it was a rhythmic jam that served as an unapologetic wake-up call to anyone who thought they could gain their freedom by sitting on the sidelines. In a series of bold statements, Scott Heron is essentially saying that freedom is not a spectator sport. You will not be able to sit at home and expect progress to come knocking. You will not see progress in the mainstream media, and you will not be able to rely on social or political leaders to give you your freedom. Instead, you will have strong, courageous, hopeful, and most importantly, educated to finally learn. You will have to be strong, courageous, and most importantly, educated to finally earn your freedom. It was true in the 60s and 70s as it is today. The revolution will not be televised. If people who control information don't want a revolution against them, will they televise the revolution? I think not. All right, so you guys, I left that the revolution will not be televised in the links. You should listen to it. It really was aimed or written for the purpose of civil rights, and when like Jim Crow and all that stuff was going on, and well, maybe, yeah, in the 60s. That was like the main focus and the main purpose, but I really think that it applies to now as well, because we're going through another revolution in this country. And so if you listen to it, there's probably lots of old references to things that were going on back then, but just try and see how you can relate it to what's going on today. Because, I mean, honestly, it's not going to be televised, especially if the controllers don't want, don't want a revolution against them, right? Are you going to like tell on yourself? Are you going to like encourage people to attack you? No, I understand why. I don't agree with it, but it's not going to be televised, and it's something that, we're not going to watch on TV. It's something that we have to be a part of. So, all right, so questions. Have you experienced any of the conundrums that Charmath is talking about when using social media? So that was a clip of the Indian guy that who used to work for Facebook. Okay, what are ways you think your life will improve if you were to stop using social media? Have you guys ever stopped using social media for like a week or so? Have you seen what impact that's had on your life, negative or positive? If you can, maybe you should try it and see what happens, see how you feel about it. It would be an interesting experiment. All right. Do you think your life will improve or will it get worse if you were to do that experiment? Is it easy to stop using social media? You think it's easy? You should try. I'm really encouraging. I mean, I can't like make you guys, but it would be interesting, right? To experiment with yourself and see if it's easy, if it would have an effect on your life, right? If you were just for like a week, just start for a week, see what happens. Maybe longer, right? What other examples can you find of the media manipulating the truth or staging lies? There are many, right? I brought up a lot in this module, but can you find any examples now where you're watching the media and one, on one end, they say one thing and then maybe you find out that a totally different thing is going on in reality, right? It would be interesting. If you're watching TV or watching something, look for those things and see if you can pick them out. It'll be a fun little game that you can play for yourself or with yourself. So, all right, guys. All right, guys, that's it. That ends this module. I will see you in the next module. And peace out. Bye. Mwah.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still life of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.